What's going on YouTube? So outside of the big three pickup trucks, the Toyota RAV4 is the next most likely vehicle you're to see out on the road. Since its redesign, sales have been continuously increasing, sometimes selling nearly 50,000 units monthly, which is why we're standing next to the latest 2021 example today. Toyota has added a couple enhancements this year, so let's go ahead and see what they are and see what has made this such a popular product. Alright, so getting started here with the exterior design. You're not going to really notice any changes for 2021. However, Toyota has subbed out the super white color for Blizzard Pearl this year as one tiny change. Now, as far as up in the front here, you're going to notice the same kind of rugged look that came out with this new generation. So you have this trapezoid grille. This would be finished in a gray color if you go for the top-end limited model. And then off to the side here, you've got full LED headlights, which continue to be standard across all the trim levels, which is definitely a nice touch. And then down below, all but the very base LE, that will also throw in the halogen fog lights. And stooping down here to your wheels, you will continue to find the same options as last year. So both your XLE Premium and your Limited trim, those will come standard with these very nice looking 19-inch Super Chrome alloy wheels. However, if you go for the lower trims, you will have a 17-inch alloy on the XLE and a 17-inch steel wheel with hubcaps on the LE. Now, jumping up here to your mirrors, they are body colored on all but the LE, and you will also find heating and blind spot monitoring on all but the LE.
Now, like Drew mentioned in the front, the RAV4 isn't going to change much this year, but that's not to say that it doesn't still look good, because I really am a huge fan of this RAV4's design, especially here in the rear. Now, breaking down the individual elements you're going to have these taillights, which are partially LED. The brake light unit is LED, but the turn signal and reverse light is incandescent. And then as far as other things, you'll notice this piece right here, this would be swapped out for a chrome piece if you go for the Limited, as well as this rear diffuser would have some accenting down here to kind of make it look a little bit more expensive. But all of the models are going to have dual exhaust outlets, which I think is a really nice touch. Now, Toyota does a really good job with the safety system, since you're going to have their Safety Sense Suite 2.0 system standard across the entire lineup. That'll include all of your niceties like adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, and even advanced stuff like auto high beam headlamps and lane trace assist with road sign detection. But as we've found out, Toyota didn't change much with the exterior for 2021 for this RAV4, but now let's go ahead and hop on the inside, see if they've changed anything in there. And if you're enjoying this video, be sure to help us out by hitting that subscribe button down below.
So on the RAV4, Toyota continues to include their smart entry system, as well as this key fob standard on all but the very base LE. Now, as far as remote start, you can do that via the Intune app, and that has a free trial period. Now, to get inside the vehicle itself, all you have to do is just grab behind the handle, since there is a sensor. And once you open up the door, you will be greeted by the same design as before, which has a cool, rugged look to it, you know, that matches with the exterior pretty well. Now, of course, you do have quite a few different ways you can equip this cabin. So on your LE and your XLE trim levels, those will come standard with cloth seating in your choice of black, nutmeg, or on the XLE, only a gray option. Then, when you go up to this XLE Premium or the Limited trim, that's where you upgrade to the Softex Faux Leather, and that comes in the choices of black, gray, or nutmeg as well. Now, turning over here to your door trim, you will see some of those materials reflected up here. So we have a patch of the black leather material from the seats right here. But on most of the trim levels, the rest of this is going to be hard touch except on the Limited trim. Over here you'll find 2% memory seating, which is optional on this XLE Premium, standard on the Limited trim. And then all 4 of the windows will be one-touch automatic. As far as the seats, we have the 8-way power adjusting seat with 2-way lumbar. This is standard on all but the very base model. And then, like I was already mentioning, this is a synthetic leather, but it definitely looks and feels pretty nice. And you have the color contrast stitching in the middle as well as along the sides. So with the RAV4, Toyota uses a nice mixture of materials that feel very solid and also look pretty upscale. So across your upper dash on all the trim levels, you're going to find a soft touch plastic. Then below that, all the trim levels will also include this patch of leatherette with the color contrast stitching detail. As you drop down lower, you will find some hard touch plastics through here, but everything does fit together extremely well with no gaps, and it feels very solid. Then to start up the RAV4, you have standard push button start on all but the LE. And once everything gets booted up, you will be looking at the standard gauge cluster across most of the trim levels with the 4.2-inch multifunction display right there in the middle. Now, if you were to choose the Limited trim, that would actually substitute a 7-inch display right there into the middle, but otherwise you've got the same analog gauges on the outside edges. And coming back to the steering wheel, of course you have electric power assisted steering, and the wheel itself will be leather wrapped on the XLE Premium and above. You do have manual tilt and telescoping across the range. And then if you choose the optional weather package, which is available on the XLE and up, that's going to throw in steering wheel heating as well as rain sensing wipers. But let's go ahead and dig into the storage, since that's one of the RAV4's strongest areas. So we'll start out underneath our center console here. As you can see, this is a really large space. We do have a nice felt lining down at the bottom as well, and 2 charging USB ports. When we get out our coupons to put it to the test here, as you can see, it swallows it up absolutely no problem. Now, in front of that, we have 2 cup holders that are really deep. Definitely like this. They'll hold bottles really easily, and it does have a texture at the bottom. We have another big shelf right here, which doubles as a wireless phone charging pad if you have that option, plus another USB and a 12-volt outlet. And finally, we have the signature Toyota storage shelves right there, as well as a small one on this side. So you have tons of storage here in the RAV4. Now coming over here to the shifter, it does have a cool squared off design. Obviously operation is pretty much the same as any other shifter, so you just pull back for drive. You can bump over here to the left if you want to do some manual shifting, but you're not going to have any paddle shifters. And then when we go into reverse, this is where you'll find several different versions of the camera system depending on the trim level. So LE through XLE Premium just have the basic display with fixed guidelines. However, standard on the Limited and optional on the XLE Premium are these dynamic guidelines. Now, optional on the Limited trim level is a 360-degree camera system. So you got several different options depending on whatever your needs are. And then when you go into park, the parking brake will automatically engage, and you do also have the brake hold function right there. Okay, so let's move on up the dashboard to our climate options. So with this, you will have a dual zone automatic setup on all but the very base LE. And as you can see, you have these really large knobs that make adjustment super easy. Down below that, you will also notice that we have heated seats. These are going to be available via the weather package, except for on the Limited where they are standard. Additionally, on the Limited trim, you can option on ventilation when you go for its version of the weather package. Alright, now that takes us up here to our audio systems. So standard on the Limited and optional on this XLE Premium is the 11-speaker Premium JBL sound system. So let's go ahead and take a sample of it. Sound quality of this system is certainly very nice, so if you really enjoy listening to music, I definitely recommend upgrading to this system. Okay, so now we're up here at our in-tune display. So what you're looking at on this specific model is the 8-inch display. This is usually standard on just the limited model, but again, we have some optional equipment here on this XLE Premium, and the 8-inch display is one of those features. On the other models, you will have a standard 7-inch display, which looks mostly the same as this one. Along the sides, you do have some shortcut buttons, and then as far as the main features, you'll have navigation as standard equipment on the limited trim level only. However, all the other trim levels, those have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay abilities as well, so you can use those for navigation. Now jumping up here to the top, you'll notice we have a frameless auto-dimming mirror with HomeLink universal remotes. Then, when you flip that switch there, you have the rear camera mirror system, which goes all the way out to the edges. Really a nice and premium look. It is optional on this XLE Premium. And then up at the very top, we have our one-touch power moonroof. This is just the standard size unit. However, if you want to get a panoramic one, you can option that on to the limited trim.
Now the reason this RAV4 is so popular is because this segment of vehicle is a really just good segment for hauling all of the family around. So this rear seat is extremely important. Now as far as the space itself, it's going to come in at 38 inches of rear legroom and 40 inches of rear headroom, which is very class competitive specs. Now it is going to come in a little bit less than the Honda CR-V, but that's right on par with like the current Nissan Rogue. Now behind rear seating position, I have, I would say, 3 to 4 inches of rear legroom, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat, so pretty spacious back here overall. Now as far as your features, here in the center you are going to have vents, which are nicely included on all but that very base LE trim, as are these 2 charging USB ports down below. Now I do also want to point out that Toyota does offer heated rear seats back here, and that's going to be on the limited with the weather package. Then if we fold down the armrest, we do have cup holders inside. Now walking up to the tailgate, this XLE Premium trim is going to throw in a power one, and if you want a hands-free one, that is offered on the limited. Now once it slowly opens up, you are going to find a good amount of space back here for this segment. It's going to come in at 38 cubic feet behind the second row, and if you fold it, it expands to 70 cubic feet. Now that is a touch behind the Honda CR-V as well as the current Nissan Rogue. However, it's really on par with most of the rivals. And as far as how Toyota has finished it, we do have a carpeting along the floor. If we lift it up, we do have a spare tire. Off to the right side, we have a little storage area, as well as a 12-volt outlet, a light, and a cargo cover. And it is worth mentioning that these seats do fold 60-40 split. Now even if you go for the highest end models, you're still going to have a 4-way manual seat across all of the trim levels. And then in front of the passenger for the glove box, it is really nicely dampened, and I would say it's medium to small size. It's pretty good for fitting in the coupons. There's definitely enough width. However, it's not too deep. I do also want to point out though that you could individually cut out the coupons and then throw them on this shelf up here, which is a pretty convenient option. And then up top, we have a sun visor with a large mirror, a light, and you can also detach it, and there is an extension in the end.
Okay, so first taking off in this 2021 RAV4. You are going to have the same engine as last year, as you probably expect. So that's going to be a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine, 203 horsepower, 184 pound-feet of torque. So those are definitely numbers actually that are on the upper end of the segment, more than, you know, like the RAV4, Nissan Rogue, and many of the rivals. And you know, getting up to speed definitely does a good job. You can tell that, you know, this is a pretty peppy engine. You know, it really gets you up to speed nicely.
Yeah, and it is also worth noting that for those of you who maybe want something a little different, the RAV4 does also have different powertrain options. So there is a hybrid offered. Actually, they sell a lot of hybrid models on this RAV4. So we will cover that in a separate review. And there's also that new Prime model coming out this year, which is a plug-in electric.
Yeah, and that's going to be your really powerful option, which Toyota says produces over 300 horsepower as a total. So we look forward to getting our hands on that, so you'll have more options than ever in 2021. Yeah, like I said, definitely just feels peppy and really ready to go. And part of that has to do with the fact that this comes with an 8-speed automatic transmission. So if you've been shopping in this segment, you know that a great deal of competition comes with continuously variable transmissions. So having the traditional 8-speed on board, I think, is a benefit, not only in responsiveness, but just in everybody having a more traditional feel, which I think most people prefer having.
Yeah, absolutely. And it, like you mentioned, that definitely makes it feel more powerful than something like a Honda CR-V. We actually spent an entire week with that, so we know it definitely feels way more powerful than that. Now, as far as your drive trains for this RAV4, of course, you're going to have standard front-wheel drive, optional all-wheel drive, and if you go for the Limited, you are going to have the segment-first torque vectoring all-wheel drive system. So that's definitely something worth considering if you're looking at going for a trim like this. You may want to just go ahead and upgrade to the Limited.
Now, one of the things, I mean, obviously it's not like the paramount issue that people think about when they're shopping for a RAV4, but I definitely want to mention it, is the driving dynamics. Because this new generation, I've said it before, I'll say it again, when Toyota upgraded to the TNGA platform, it really got a big boost in driving dynamics. The steering is very naturally weighted. The chassis actually corners very nice and flat. I would say this is among one of the best driving and handling options in the class.
Okay, and looks like we're going around 50 miles per hour, so let's go ahead and get this sound level reading. Looks like we're going to be sitting around 58 decibels, which is a pretty good reading. When you get up to speed, I will say this RAV4 is pretty much class competitive in terms of the sound. However, I do want to point out that today's airball is just kind of the engine noise in this RAV4. So when you are accelerating up to that 60 miles per hour, it is going to be pretty noisy. This 2.5 liter 4-cylinder is a rather noisy option for this segment, and it's something that you're going to notice as compared to like a turbo in the Honda CR-V.
But as far as your slam dunk, you really have a lot of different things that you can choose to be the slam dunk. One of the things we think really stands out from the competition, though, is the way that it looks. Toyota kind of has like a rugged theme inside and out, and a lot of the competition can be kind of like, mushy and soft looking. Yeah. But this kind of has like a cool rugged vibe, which I think does stand out from what you have with the other competition.
Alright, and let's mention fuel economy before we wrap up this drive. So for the front-wheel drive model, it's going to be rated at 28 city, 35 highway, 30 combined, which is very impressive out of an SUV. Then if you go for all-wheel drive, they are going to range depending on which trim level you go for. Most of them are going to be like 28. This one in particular is 29. So you're going to be looking at, pretty good fuel economy regardless of if you go for all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive.
And you do also have an auto start-stop system on board. We'll see how quickly that fires up. Pretty good, nice and smooth. You can defeat it though if you don't want to have that on with this button right here. And
then as far as your pricing, The LE is going to start at $26,050, XLE $27,345, the XLE Premium a touch over $30,000, Adventure is $33,155, and then you have the Limited at $34,580. Now this one's equipment level is a little bit odd. We have the XLE Premium all-wheel drive, and we also have almost every option from the Limited. So this one's pretty expensive, and when you add the destination charge of $1,175, this one's total is $37,347. So that's pretty steep for a XLE Premium. I don't know why you wouldn't just go ahead and go for a Limited at that point, but you do get a lot of features in here.
But to conclude here, I think you can probably tell at this point exactly why this sells so many units. Nearly 500,000 last year, and still tons even during this pandemic that we're in. It just has so many positive attributes that are exactly what American families are looking for. You know, and when you're shopping in this segment, it's really hard to beat the RAV4.
Well guys, we hope you enjoyed watching this in-depth look at one of America's most popular vehicles, this 2021 Toyota RAV4 XLE Premium. We really hope you enjoyed watching, and if you did, be sure to help us out by hitting that subscribe button down below. There you will find tons of other automotive content, including tons and tons of content on this Toyota RAV4, as well as its competitive set like the Honda CR-V. And we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.